The flavor tingles all your taste buds. Nothing better than that. But we are called to eat in such a way that the body benefits. The body is the temple of God. Once it benefits, God also is glorified. And we are to seek to get to the point where we glorify God in whatever we do in our diet. And as the week progresses, all the many other ways we will see how we, in our activities, can glorify God. Now, nutrition. What do we understand by nutrition? A lot of times we hear nutrition and we get all flustered. What am I supposed to eat? What proportion am I supposed to eat it in? We're looking for a formula. A teaspoon of this, a cup of that. And sometimes we don't really get that. We don't really get that bit of information that we're looking for. And even if you want to get a formula, sometimes it will be difficult to follow it. Well, a chop, when you go again, a banana or fruits or whatever you eat, when you come home, you want your meal. That might have taken away from the formula, okay? But there are simple things that we need to understand. Now, so we eat food from the mouth to the stomach, to the intestines, small intestines, to the large intestines, and the excess or the part that is not needed is excreted. We obtain nutrients from these foods. There are several nutrients that we need to take into consideration when we talk about nutrition. That we need to take into consideration. And we know them: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and we know them: carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. Fat. If we go back to school again, and minerals. If you have children in primary school again, then they will talk to you about foods, like go foods. Those are foods that gives you energy to go and do your exercise and what? Those are your carbohydrates and your fat. They will talk to you about grow foods that help you to grow, put on mass, develop muscles, which are mostly your proteins. And they talk about glow foods, make you radiant and healthy, okay? Those are mostly your vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. Those are the main 4 groups of nutrients that the body needs. Apart from the nutrients, then there are the food groups, because you're going to get your nutrients from the food itself. So we're talking about the food groups now. And it's important that we get the right proportions of these groups so that we can get the nutrients that we need. Now, there are 5 main groups, and those groups include the cereals and grains. And these includes, well, whole grain cereals, bread, corn, all grains, and cereal. These really should take up a great part of our diet to provide, and they provide large amount of nutrients, minerals, vitamins, and complex carbohydrates, along with dietary fibers, which are also important for our development. Fruits and vegetables, which include also staples, that is another group. We are told that our fruits should be whole fruits. When we are having fruits, we should not have any processed fruits. So you go to a tin, or you get a juice, or that is not your form to get your fruit. Your fruit should be taken on a whole. You eat your mango, and you get all the nutrients that the mango has to offer. You get the fiber, and you get the vitamins and stuff like that. If you get a mango juice, then more than likely there's no fiber there. They would have taken out certain nutrients, and they would have possibly added sugar to it, which is not what we are looking for. Vegetables should be varying in characteristic also. Our green vegetables are very important for phytochemicals and other nutrients and minerals that they have. Our orange and yellow vegetables are also very important. And our staples, our dasheen and our breadfruit, those are also very important because they come in a natural state, not refined, and they provide the body with nutrient-dense food. Now, your food can be, most of the time, your processed foods, they would have taken out, like I mentioned, a lot of the nutrients from it. Your nutrient-dense food, which are mostly your whole grain and your unrefined foods, has lots of nutrients in it. And that is what we should strive to eat. So your processed food, your cornflakes, your pastas, we should reduce those as much as possible. So we spoke about cereals, fruits, vegetables, staples, those are the first two, legumes, nuts, and seeds. The third group of foods that we should consume. Now these groups, beans, peas, lentils, are a good source of protein. As well, just because they are nutrient dense, they provide minerals, vitamins, and other protective elements. I'm stressing nutrient dense food, and all of the food groups we can find examples of nutrient-dense one, and we can include those in our food, in our diet, so that we don't have to have a full plate to get the energy. We can have smaller portion, and we can extract from that, when you get into our system, just what the body needs. The other group that is mentioned here is dairy and egg, animal product. Animal products are a great source of proteins, calcium, vitamin B12. And vitamin B12 is one of the nutrients that is found only in animal product. So we are told that if we are to be vegetarian, we need to get supplement. Or we get food that are fortified. So you may get a soy milk that is fortified with vitamin B12. It is necessary to promote cell division. It is necessary to prevent certain type of anemia. And we should be careful that that is included in our diet. Now, dairy and eggs, they are high in saturated fat. They have cholesterol, and therefore can be detrimental to health. Cholesterol, saturated fat, those are some of the foods that are responsible for some of the chronic diseases that we suffer from. atherosclerosis, heart disease, strokes, and the like. And so if you're going to use these elements, we should, if it's milk, preferably use non-fat milk. And eggs should be reduced to 1 or 2 eggs per week. Okay? And if we're going to use eggs, maybe we can use it a little bit more regularly. We should avoid the yolk. Okay? I've gone to places, restaurants, and you will see the health-conscious persons. They will come and they will go to the bar and they will ask for an omelette, and they will say, no, only egg white. And they won't ask for any ham and anything to go with it. That is what makes it sweet, but they won't ask for that because they're conscious about their health. And so those are some of the precautions that you have to take when it comes to selecting some of the foods that we are going to use. The last food group that we want to mention, fats, oils, sweets, and salt. These are necessary foods for the body. The body cannot run without fat. Fat forms certain part of the cell membrane, even fat on the skin to maintain the skin condition. In the hair, the root of the hair produce oils. We need fats and oils. Sweets, well, sugar is a good source of energy. And sugar adds taste to some of the food that we use. But we have to be careful in how much of that sugar we use. The other thing too is that if we become accustomed to too much sugar, then the taste would always call for it. But if we educate ourselves and we train our taste buds to use in only certain amount, then that will become adequate for us. There are certain other elements like iodine, salt, sodium. Small amounts is necessary. If you don't get enough iodine, we can develop thyroid problems. You don't have enough sodium, you can have electrolyte imbalance, dehydration, that kind of thing. So we need to include these in our diet. But we need to be very careful the amount of these that we use. Remember, our taste buds are trainable, okay? And we need to be the one to control and to program them. One of the things that we need to look at also when it comes to nutrition is nutrition and health across our lifespan. Now, even before a baby is born, nutrition is already in place. Based on what the mother feeds on, okay? The baby might be protected to some extent because only certain things will pass the placenta and go to the baby. If the mother is not eating it properly, then sometimes the mother's body gets broken down for certain elements that has to go to the baby. Yes, still the baby can find itself deficient in the nutrients that it gets. But from conception, a baby is born, where we know that nowadays you go to the hospital. Our hospital is a hospital that only promotes breastfeeding. If you go there, you can't carry no bottle or anything like that. Exclusive breastfeeding is promoted. And in our literature, it speaks about that. We are also only supposed to promote exclusive breastfeeding. The baby gets all the nutrients that it needs from the milk. For around 6 months, we can start to include other foods, okay? Small amounts, prepared in a particular way. And from there, it is very important that parents start training the taste buds. That we start training the taste buds of the infant. You'll be surprised to know that a proper start will lead to a good ending. So, infancy, teenage years have another challenge. Teenagers generally, they tend to change their diets. They get a little more freedom and they want to eat this over that. They are in the stage of growing, developing, and sometimes that calls for specific nutrients, which is a very important stage in their life. Adulthood has also its challenges. As adults, sometimes we get carried away with work. So I have to get up early and I have to feed the children, and I don't really get time to prepare a good breakfast for me. And I just take something, and when I get to work, I pick up something by the side, and we end up being deficient more than anything else. So we are supposed to pay attention as adults to what and how we treat our bodies. Pregnancy is also a very vital stage. A diet of a pregnant mother or pregnant lady is very important because it not only affects her health, it affects the baby's health. Not only does it affect her health at the moment, but it can determine how she is even after the pregnancy. You don't eat properly and you have certain risks, you can develop diabetes. Okay? You can get gestational diabetes, and that can stick with you for the rest of your life. So it's very important that we follow guidelines, especially pregnancy and stuff like that, so that we get the nutrients that the body needs. Now, what is the recommendation that we have in terms of how we should eat and how much we should eat? Now, we have a plate, and simple formula, if you want a formula, is to divide your plate in two. Half of your plate should have fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables on one half. The other half should be divided between protein and grains. Remember, our fruits should be whole fruits, no fruit juice or no processed fruits or anything like that. Our vegetables, like I said, should have variation in color, texture, and we should vary our vegetables. So today I have tomatoes and lettuce. Tomorrow, don't give me the same thing. Mix it around, okay? Give me some carrots and some crucifine and something else to go with it. And the other day, we mix it around, okay? Not only should it taste different, it should look different, okay? And just that, the way how it looks and it tastes, it gives you different nutrients which the body will appreciate. So vary the vegetables that you use. Whole fruits, that is your first half of your plate. So you can't go wrong. If it's a small plate, half. If it's a big plate, half. And we try and maintain that. The other half should be grains. And remember we said that our grains are our peas. Sorry. Our grains. Yes. Our rice and corn and stuff like that, those are our grains. The other half of the plate, and your grains also, half of your grains should be whole grain. So whole grain bread or whole wheat bread instead of white bread. You can, if you want pasta, whole grain. If it's your cereal, whole grain, half of it should be that. Your rice should be brown rice rather than your processed rice. So try and make that as best as possible. The other quarter of the plate should be your protein. And your protein, remember your protein comes from your nuts, your legumes, which is your peas and your beans. Those are excellent source of protein, animal protein. And you can supplement it with, well, we talk about eggs and milk. These also have protein in them, calcium, and other stuff. So if we're going to use those, then we can also incorporate that as part of your protein. Okay? Now, we are living in a world where, let's go to the basics. Let's go to the basics. We are Seventh-day Adventists. We read the Bible. Okay? We read the Bible. And I know the ideal diet is a vegetarian diet. When God created man, there was no meat. Okay? There was no meat. There was no milk and no cheese and no nothing like that. It was vegetarian. And God created a perfect world, did He? He created a perfect world. Because of sin, then we have certain breakdown and degradation and deterioration, and we become more stubborn. But because of even back then, and because of what God had to do to deal with sin, we were told that we can eat certain animal product. Okay? It's in the Bible. Thompson? There are persons who have persons who are sensitive to certain food product. You know, you can't eat bread because there are certain things in the bread that they are allergic to. Gluten or what have you. There are certain persons who can't absorb certain, you give them peas and it's trouble, okay? And if you were to follow a vegetarian diet, you might end up being more ill than anything else. If you go back to Ellen G. White, if you study Ellen G. White writing, we talk about certain conflicts there, where at one point in time, Ellen G. White said that we should not eat any animal product, any egg. But what happened, I think she herself tried it, and then she got sick, almost died, and then she realized that she had to incorporate back certain animal product in order to maintain or to regain our health. We are back to the point where God created and He intends one thing for us. Because of sin, He allows certain things. We, today, we need to know where we are and our relationship with God, where we want to go, and how much we can take. We have to use reason, okay? The best diet is a vegetarian diet. Some of the advantages, it is low in fat, saturated fat. There's no cholesterol in animal products, in vegetarian diet. There's high amount of fiber, protective for your intestines, prevent colon cancer, stuff like that. Low in refined sugars. It is rich in vitamins and minerals. And it contains high amount of protective substances, phytochemicals, antioxidants, which are very important to maintain health. We can't go wrong by intending to go the perfect way, okay? And so my admonition is that as much as possible, we should try to go the way that God intended for us. Someone said, well, we don't know if when we get up there, we'll be able to eat meat. And if you're training for the race, if you're training to enter in a competition, if you know you're not going to run 15 seconds for your 100-meter race and expect to when you get in the race, to run it in 9 seconds. There's no way. We have to start practicing so that we can get closer to where we are going. And that is the admonishment for us today. So, our plate again, half vegetables, half fruit, the other half grains, the other half is protein, okay? Make your food nutrient dense. Avoid refined foods, natural as much as possible, and those generally gives a lot more nutrients and vitamins and protein all in one than just using foods that are refined. Eating healthy adds up over time, bite by bite. Even if you didn't start off on a good foot, from now onwards, whatever little you do would add to your health, add to your life, and the quality of your life. So we are called to make that step in eating as healthily as possible. Now, just a little revision of what recap of what we've been talking about. Now, so our food, we should have a variety, okay? A variety of different foods, groups on our plates. The quality, we should use whole foods rather than refined. We should have a balance, as in we should not be eating too much of any food. In excess can lead to obesity and stuff like that. Too little can lead to anemia and disnutrition. Moderation is another aspect that we have to look at. So variety, quality, balance, moderation. Like I mentioned before, certain foods, we only need them in small quantities. Small quantities, your salt, your fats, nuts. Nuts are a very good source of proteins and minerals and stuff, but they are compact and they have lots of energy in it, lots of calories. So we should not eat very large portions of that. Moderation. Avoid like I mentioned before, highly refined foods. Okay? There are foods that, if you look at them, there's no nutritional value. Okay? Sodas. You go and you pick up a bottle of soda. All it have in it is sugar. Doesn't really give you anything else. Okay? That is not a recipe for good health. Other things, coffee, alcohol. Alcohol doesn't give you any energy. Okay? It does pure damage. So we are called to avoid these foods. At the end of the day, just like we are called to have variety and eat wholesome foods, and to pay attention to our diet from babies up to adulthood in special circumstances like pregnancy, so in life, our spiritual life has a span. Our spiritual life has a span. And we grow and we develop spiritually throughout our life. At the end of the day, how much time and effort we place in our relationship with God will determine our spiritual health at the end of the day. We should try and let our experience with God be one that has variety, that has flavor. Just like how we like the food with the taste and everything like that, we should get to the point where our spiritual life, we have a similar experience. Just like with food, we want whole grain food and non-refined food. It is important that we go back to the source. Sometimes we listen to people speaking, we come and we listen to the preacher, but then we don't really go and get that's kind of refined what the preacher will say to you. But we don't go to the raw food, the whole grain, and get it for ourselves. We don't read the Bible for ourselves and make sure and form our own opinions and get exactly what God is saying to us. We don't pray, spend time in prayer and meditation, and get the peace that comes with that. And we don't get to the point where we can say that God spoke to me. We don't get to that point. So we are encouraged in our spiritual life to make that effort also, to do what it takes, to spend time in God's word, contemplate his wonderful promises. We can read inspirational songs and exhortation and spend time in prayer. That is what we are called to do, so that even more important than our physical health and our nutrition, our spiritual development and our relationship with God can go to another level. And it's a span from one stage to the other to the other. So I might not be a vegetarian because I'm not committed, but I can look at examples of persons who are committed, see how well they're living, and ask God for that drive, and I can move forward and get to that point. Spiritually, we move upwards to Zion. There's where we are heading. Let us ask God to give us the determination and the drive to go forward, so that one day we all can meet and live with him.
Thank you, Dr. Adams, for such a wonderful and informative sermon. Can we please stand for our closing song, number 560, 560?
Now, dear Lord, we just want to thank you for that very inspiring message, Lord. I pray that as we leave here today, we may be better equipped to go out to tell the world about healthy living. Help us to remember that our bodies are the temple of God. Be with us here today as we leave to go to our several homes. Take us safely. In your name I pray. Amen.